Hello, welcome back. Again in a tiny bit a different setup today because we are talking again about the zv-e1 from Sony. And in this case I want to talk a little bit more about the webcam mode, or how to use this webcam, because part of the story is the webcam mode, but it's also partly not the story. I will sometimes look at different screens because I want to show you some things. So keep that in mind, and I also want to point out that some parts of this might not be technically perfect. For example, I'm not really sure if you are lip sync at the moment, and I might have to fix that in post. So let's get going. The reason I'm using this setup, and again I'm now kind of looking at the screen and not the lens, sorry for that. I am sitting in my not YouTube setup, but in my normal room where I do meetings for Skype and Zoom and stuff like that. I put the zv-e1 here. I would almost say as a lark. That's semi-true, but once I hooked it up, I figured, well, this actually looks so nice for webcam that I should use this. Now, it's not looking perfect now because we are going to fiddle with some settings, but I do want to show what I've learned with the zv-e1. For starters, let me show you a little bit the setup, and that's going to already look quite complex. So let me show you what we are doing, and that's also the reason why I'm doing this. So I have to sometimes lean over because the buttons are in weird places and stuff like that, and put this back. So I've put the light a bit higher on this camera, so I'm able in this case already to switch between two cameras. So you see on top of my my screen the zv-e1, that's the one that we are talking about now, and it's using the Sony. Let me zoom in a tiny bit. If I can, okay, I'm seriously zoom rocker, so a tiny bit bigger. Of course, you get this weird effect because I'm using the screen in front of me as the preview window. But you can see the zv-e1 is on top, and I'm now using the 24mm G lens, which is, I think, an interesting sort of combination. I use a newer arm, which you can't see, but a newer arm. But nice about that, and let me focus on myself. What's nice about that is that it is such a desk arm, but it is only adjustable in certain clicks. That means that it's quite stable. It takes about, I think, 10 kilograms if it's straight up, or 5 kilograms if it's extended out. And the camera setup we are now looking at is probably sometimes below a kilogram, sometimes a little bit higher. So that's, yeah, pretty good. So the reason I have to sort of bend a little bit is simply because, oh, you can see me there, like picture in picture. Hello. So, which we will get back to what we are seeing there later. So I can switch between the two inputs. I will show, well, okay, so that's the camera. The small rig light movie head is on there, and I found that to be a nice solution because you can, and let me move it a bit, you can see that I can move it around quite easily. And the nice thing about this one is that you can turn it, twist it, and extend it. Of course, in this case, that it goes all the way up to here. In this case, it doesn't make any sense. It's nice to keep it straight up. It does not show in the picture field. Then we are using a Rode microphone, which is going directly into the Macintosh. You can slightly see it over there. There's a MacBook, sorry, a Studio Ultra there. And there's 3 screens. I'm not using the 3 screens just to as my normal gaming setup or something. I normally work on multi-screen applications, and when I'm doing that, having multiple screens makes sense. I actually need 2 screens, but I figured, well, it looks a bit stupid with 2, so let's buy 3 of them, and they were quite cheap, so that's fine. I have 3 screens, 3 4K screens. Then below it, this one is a MacBook M2, and I'm simply using that as it sounds a bit weird, but as a remote control. I really like this trackpad and keyboard setup, and this is kind of the cheapest way to do it nicely. And of course, we have an extra screen, and I can automatically go from one screen to the other screen. And we can now see that we are indeed recording. So, what else can I say about the setup? Well, there's another box which we'll talk about a little bit later. It's hidden kind of behind here. And there you can see it. And that's a small ATEM switcher, which new costs about 250 euros. I think second hand is probably like $200 or something. And I'm using that because we are actually not running in webcam mode anymore. We are now using hdmi out. And I need to go from hdmi out, of course, to USB in on your laptop. So this is not needed. So if you normally just hook up the camera to USB-C, it will work fine. But one of the things I want to talk about, and sorry that it takes me about 10 minutes to get there, is some of the more interesting stuff. So normally if you hook it up, I think Sony's pretty darn near a perfect solution for, let's say, version 1.0, in that you hook it up to your machine. It tells you on the screen of the zv-e1, do you want to go into streaming mode? You hit yes and you're done. The downside is that I found out is that things like, I can do it like this. Things like the remote stop working if you're in streaming mode. So that's kind of a downside. Another thing, why is that a downside? Because you might want to do this. You might want to zoom out and you might want to zoom in, right? So let me put it back on the front view. So this is the zv-e1. You might want to zoom out and might want to zoom in. Or an even handier one, you could program one of the buttons, and we can use it using the remote, which is funny. So let me bring this out of focus. So we are now kind of out of focus on the device, but they have something called product mode. But if you don't have the remote, it's really difficult because you have to hang over to press the button. So it is really stupid that you can't use the remote. You can see now if I press the button, which I've programmed for this product mode, it's easy to switch. Of course, normally you will put it down and you will take another product. Let's talk about our little fan solution that we are going to talk about. And of course, normally you would have to do like this and then it might focus not on you, but on the eye. But now you can have the remote in front of you and just hit the button and you will see that it should switch between me. Hold on. I'm just trying to find a nice position for it. If I hit the button, oh, there it goes. I must say the remote is at some point still the weakest point. I think I was just pressing it too fast or whatever. There it goes. And of course it also supports all the other... Okay, I got myself stuck in my microphone. This is a normal Daniel video, so it's messy. And of course you have the functions like zooming in and zooming out. And also putting it into the special modes like the... let me see if I are now in iFocus. So iFocus now on. You want to do special modes like the auto framing and stuff like that. So what I'm doing now is I'm using the HDMI out to the converter, so you can get these cheap converters which cost you about, I don't know, $25 or something. They work, they are not great, or you can use something that I'm using now, which is the ATEM mini kind of solution. There are also other products, but this is not a bad starting point. You have 4 HDMI inputs, and you can already notice I'm using a second camera, so you can do that. You can do picture-in-picture, which I guess we can turn on. So let me try quickly. And now I should be able to do picture-in-picture. No, this is not a bad solution, by the way. So maybe we'll just leave it like this. Yeah. See, you always find stuff out. Of course, I can now zoom in and zoom out on myself, which is quite nice. And I can turn this one up because I don't think now that we have this running, I need to change anymore because this is kind of a nice setup. We can see everything. Yeah, so using the HDMI out means that we are affecting 2 things. A, the remote starts working again. Why Sony has done this, I have no idea. In fact, I'm going to make a video talking about the change that I want Sony to make to the remote, because that's quite a bad sort of area at the moment. But the remote works again and it has all kinds of advantages. Let me show you a few things. You can put it on focus mode, for example. And then if you are in manual, so I programmed my C1 button to go into manual. So it's now in manual, and you can see I can throw it out of focus and into focus. If I out of focus, I can press one time the middle button, and you can see, the AF on button, and you can see it finds the focus for me. So we are still in manual focus, but I can decide, so let me be out of focus again, press the AF on button once, I'm into focus, and it stays there. Which is kind of a nice solution, right? So there are different tricks that you can do, and of course if I hit C1 again, we are out of focus. We already saw that the middle one turns off the product mode, which is nice. Let me turn this one off here before we get back to that. And this becomes bigger. There's one thing I don't understand is why on the iPad, so basically it looks like they are both using a different color profile, and the iPad is now giving information on the zv-e1, but it's displaying another signal, at least there's some other settings there, and I can't really get them to match. So that's why this one looks way grayer than that one. It's not a big deal because you can trust the meters on it. So I'm wandering off a tiny bit, but we are using the hdmi, so that's in use. The Bluetooth works again, which is really nice, because you can then use it basically during the meeting to control your camera a little bit without sort of hunching over all the time, which is a good way. But it also means that we have the USB-C port free again. Now, funnily enough, if you hook it up and you connect it back to your PC, or in this case I've hooked it up to my iPad, then it does tell you that it can't go into streaming mode, but it does allow you to go into PC mode. And if you do that, it will just like normal pop it up on the screen. If you select that, then it turns out that we can use them simultaneously. And this now becomes really powerful, because next to this remote, which I almost dropped, next to this remote, we can now use the iPad or an iPhone. So if you're using this on a mobile setup, just take a cheap iPhone. I'm using an XS, so an old one that I still have. And you can use that for what I'm now going to do on the iPad. I think on the iPad is nicer, especially in a setup like this. So if you're using this for webcasting, or you're using this for Skype meetings, it gives you lots of control. So for example, we were just talking about zooming, but you can see I can also do that on the screen, which is really nice. We saw that we were auto-focusing. Now if I put it in manual focus, so it's now back into manual focus again, I can even focus from here. There's an option there. Now you see I have a focus bar, and I can just let it run focus. Out of focus, into focus, and out of focus again. And it can all be done simultaneously. So I can press the button and it will bring me back into focus, right? It will yell there, but there are still some bugs in this, but the focus is so, you can even put it on direct. And if you do that, you can set different points, which is kind of nice, which I don't want to do. Turn this off again, but you can see how much control I have. Let me zoom in a little bit. And I'm not sure why I don't have any picture here anymore now. So I'll start this up. I probably confused the app with my actions. So the nice thing is you can just start it up again and it goes again. So what is nice is that we have all the functions here that we normally would have. So if I want to change focus mode, which is an important one, of course, let's say I want to change the color temperature, I can just either hit one of the presets over here, or I can just pick a slider and make myself way too orange, way too cold, etc., etc. We have, to make this better, we have, of course, also the tools to really set it professionally, if you want to. Because you have parades, but also combination. So in this combination, you can see that we actually have a vector scope, and we have histogram and color parades. And you can see I can just go here and slide this, and you can see probably for you a little bit difficult, but you can see if I slide it this way, yeah, the overlay is a bit weird, but I can see below here that I'm now not on the face line. So if I pull it back, of course, it gets way too cold, but I can kind of quickly place it about where it needs to be. I think it was, let's just set it the way that I think it's nice. So 4700 now, I'm not sure why, it probably has to do with the light. Normally I have small lights here, you can see them over there. So just to compensate for the screens. So I'm not doing that now, so we have a little bit of weird of a setting. You can turn it off again. You can also, which is very handy, of course, do things like put it on focus peaking. I'm not sure if you can see the red, but I can promise you it's there. And now if we go back into this product mode, you can see that it's now on the pen. Hopefully you can see it a little bit on the YouTube video, but the pen is now in focus, and now my eye is in focus again. So you can change all the settings here, which is really nice. There's one thing which is now missing, which I do not understand. Let me start it one time again. Or it might be a camera setting. Because before it was also showing me all the overlays. So I'm guessing I have now turned the overlays off. That's why it's not showing me. But normally you would see also the overlay of the focus area and the eye focus dot. Oh, it was off. I still don't see it. So I'm probably because I turn information off somewhere that it does not show anymore. But you can see there's a lot of tools that you have here that you can use. Right? Zebras, color, layouts. You can flip the screen if you want to. Top down. So this is a really nice app, and again, it's using a cable just directly now to the camera. So yeah, I think that's pretty neat that you can do it at the same time. I think this makes for Zoom meetings and stuff like that an extremely powerful setup. So of course I'm now combining different tricks, and you don't have to do that, but it is kind of a nice solution in my opinion. Now the other thing, and I'm hoping that I'm in lip sync, the other thing that I might be able to show you on the screen, so let me use this screen, is a program called Audio Hijack. Let me move it over there and then click on it here, and then you should be seeing it. Yeah. So this is an app that you can install on your Mac. Sorry, I'm only talking about Mac at the moment. Is it still having me in eye focus? Oh, I'm in manual focus. I think we've solved the problem about the dot not seeing. Yeah, because now you see, hopefully you see it on the screen. It might be too dark for you, but I can see the focus on my eye again. So that was the problem. So I see the focus box, you see the bob already pop up. It sees sometimes my face. If I look like that, you will see it, and sometimes it goes to my eye. So again, sorry, I'm wandering off. But the nice thing about this program, Audio Hijack, you need something to delay the audio if you're not doing it directly to the camera. I've done it directly to the camera, and with something like a B10 or a B1, the ECM B10 or the ECM B1. The sound is actually quite nice. But you might want to use a microphone like I'm using here, right? So in that case, you want to delay the audio, because the audio will be quicker into the computer than your video. Now, I'm not sure, that's why I didn't said I might be a little bit out of lip sync. The webcam mode gives about 90 milliseconds of delay. So what you see here, that if I click on this, it gives me the schematics. So let me put it also on this screen. It automatically goes to the middle screen. But you can see that I'm now using this audio chain, and you can just sort of drop in different blocks with different effects. But here you can see I've put it on 90 milliseconds. And just for the fun of it, I can turn it off. So now it will definitely not be lip sync. And now it should kind of be lip sync. Now hopefully it didn't crash anything. But you can do all kinds of extra effects. And what I do is I reroute it to a virtual audio device, and that can just be set up in Skype or in Zoom. It's really easy. Just yeah, do it that way. And of course, in this case, I'm picking up from the Rode One. I had a hum, not anymore, but I had a weird hum at about 20 hertz. I'm not sure where it was coming from. I could not find it, so I de-hummed it, do audio delay, and then I send it forward. So that's also a very useful tool. You can do all kinds of stuff with this application. It's a really fun app, so that might also be a good hint. Let me think if I have more to say. Of course, I think I have not done that, but you can now turn the LCD off because we have this extra screen over here, which I think is very nice. I hope that you believe me that we can set all kinds of things here. We can even go into the menus, and there's all kinds of things that we can set here. Ignore modal, okay. Touch control, so you can have different touch controls, different color profiles I can set here. So I could, for example, here go to Cine, through the Cine one. I think I can just press this and go to 11. And you can see that it's changing now. Let me put it back into the original one. So turn it off again. So you can see that you can do all kinds of settings here. Add lots also. Maybe I should add a lot for this to make it the same again. Although it's not really that irritating. So I was thinking if I want to show more. I'm wondering, you should also see two temperature meters here, which is kind of interesting. The back of the monitors tell me that it's about 25 degrees. The back of the LCD, so I put a temperature measurement in there. It now tells me it's 38 degrees. It will not overheat, and it is not overheating, but that's part of the project I'm working on, which I can also kind of show you. This picture in picture is not bad, actually. So, this is our small cooler project. We are getting ready. Probably later today I'm going to work on a 3D model for this. So they will be 3D printed to be able to put on the back of the zv-e1. Now, your mileage may vary, right? I've already posted quite a lot on the YouTube channel about the overheating on the camera. In this mode, so 1080p, 50 frames a second, both internally. So what I mean with that, you also may have to make sure that you put the movie recording on full HD and not 4K and then downsample, and the HDMI output on full HD and not 4K, then into something like an ATEM mini on HDMI or on your web or your USB-C. For me, it did not overheat in this mode. You can see I have an external, I should turn a bit. This is kind of weird, but you can see the other camera. And then you can see I'm using dummy power. Now, let me say something about that. In my testing, I've found no real differences in areas where before it did. So what I mean with that, before the flash card would overheat because it's near the battery. The battery might overheat. I'm now talking about older models, right? So the A6500, for example. That would be a problem area. One of the solutions was to open the battery door or even use a dummy, which I'm doing now because, well, I don't want to run out of battery. On this body, it seems to not have much effect. It might have a tiny bit of effect, but not that much. This is probably related because this is a plastic body on the outside. So of course, if it would be a metal body, it would be much easier to get the heat to different parts of the camera. Or to, for example, a cage. Another question that we are getting is, well, if you use a cage, will the overheating be less? Probably it won't be worse, but it won't be working as good as on the old cameras because most of them were more metal based. So yeah, that's why we are working on the temperature meters and the small extension. Again, if you already want to fiddle around and not wait for a real product, you can make this for about $15 and then you can do, I've tested 4K 60 highest resolution internal recording and webcam for like 3 or 4 hours. Right? I'm also running this setup that I'm using now. I've run that for a few days. So not all day, but basically morning on, evening out, or morning on, evening out, so 10 hours or something. So this is quite a stable setup. So yes, there are complaints with the system, and yes, we will probably see some products that will help in the cooling. It's not a killing issue in my opinion. So hopefully this has recorded. If you have questions, yeah, just ask. I'm pondering if I should show more about using this as a webcam. Yeah, with lenses you've seen, I'm now using the 24. On this camera, I put the 16 to 35 G on there. You can see if we move over here a tiny bit. I have quite a few lenses. There's a whole bunch of them over there. The perfect lens for me on this setup will probably be the 24 G Master, so on 1.4, which will give us more depth of field and stuff like that. But I think it's for most people overkill. So the 16 to 35 is a really nice lens for this. People are talking about the 1.820 millimeters will also be perfect for this, but for me the distance will be a bit too much. The 40 millimeters is doable. Oh, what I didn't show you, and we can turn it on for the fun. I have to put this forward. Again, this is the problem with not having a button. I didn't program a button for it. So now if we go into this auto framing mode, which somehow you have to kick off. You first have to explain it. Yeah, I'm really far away, and then it sort of starts tracking you. So one of the reasons I'm using the 24 is that if you want to use this auto tracking sort of setup, then 24 makes more sense than the 40. The 40 would also be okay in this case. The nice thing, of course, is that we see it on the other screen, where we are in the frame. I'm not sure about you, but I think this is a very cool sort of setup to fiddle around with. So yeah, to recap, you can get the webcam output over USB-C. It will work perfectly, but some of the features of the camera will be turned off. By the way, also picture profiles will be turned off. So if you use HDMI out and then convert it to USB-C, you'll get the Bluetooth remote back, and you get the possibility to hook up an Android or an iPhone and use way more controls. And also an extra monitor output, by the way. So that's, I think, pretty cool. So thank you for watching, and like in my normal videos, I will close this. Of course, I can take this out. It should not give an error, I hope. No, it didn't. And then I can just fade you out like normally. Bye-bye, and see you in the next one.